हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू द चैनल। आज का टॉपिक है डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी। लास्ट के कुछ जो वीडियोस थे उसमें आपने फंडामेंटल राइट्स देखे। आई होप आपने वो वीडियो देखा है। अगर नहीं देखा है तो उसे भी आप देख सकते हैं। चलिए स्टार्ट करते हैं। डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी आर मेंशन्ड इन पार्ट 4 ऑफ द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फ्रॉम आर्टिकल 36 to 51। हमने फंडामेंटल राइट्स देखे थे कि वो आर्टिकल 12 to 35 थे। तो अब उसके बाद नेक्स्ट हमारा है डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी, जो कि 36 to 51 है। चलिए इसके क्वेश्चंस देख लेते हैं। द पर्पस ऑफ द इंक्लूजन ऑफ डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी इन द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज टू स्टैब्लिश पॉलिटिकल डेमोक्रेसी, सोशल डेमोक्रेसी, गांधीयन डेमोक्रेसी या सोशल एंड इकोनॉमिक डेमोक्रेसी। सो सोशल एंड इकोनॉमिक डेमोक्रेसी करेक्ट है। दिस विल हेल्प इंडिया ग्रो एज अ वेलफेयर स्टेट। मेन जो ध्येय है डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी का, आप देखेंगे क्वेश्चंस के भी माध्यम से, आपने पढ़ा होगा तो आपको पता होगा कि वेलफेयर स्टेट बनाना और जस्टिस प्रोवाइड करना। चलिए नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन देख लेते हैं। विच वन ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज नॉट द ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ द डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी? टू स्टैब्लिश अ वेलफेयर स्टेट है, टू एंश्योर सोशो इकोनॉमिक जस्टिस है, टू स्टैब्लिश अ रिलीजियस स्टेट, टू स्टैब्लिश अ सेक्युलर स्टेट। ऑफ कोर्स तो ये वाला नहीं है, इन्होंने पूछा था कौन सा नहीं है। Articles 36 to 51 of the Constitution of India contains the DPSP. The aim of the constitution makers was to establish a secular and democratic state to ensure socio-economic justice. Third question is, how are the directive principles of state policy different from fundamental rights? Former, that is पहला वाला DPSP is for the union government, latter which is fundamental right is for the state government. ऐसा है क्या? Next is former is for constitution whereas latter is not, is part of constitution whereas latter is not. DPSP are not enforceable whereas fundamental rights can be enforced. This is correct. Directive principles of state policy are different from fundamental rights as directive principles are non-justiciable, so they cannot be enforced in any court of law, but fundamental rights are enforceable. The directive principles are non-justifiable. Next question is, consider the following statements. With reference to the Constitution of India, the DPSP constitute limitations upon legislative function या executive function. तो limitations तो ये किसी पे भी नहीं लगाते हैं DPSP, तो neither one nor two. Directive principles of state policy are certain directions to the legislative and the executive intended to show in what manner the state should exercise their legislative and executive power. The directive principles are in nature an instrument of instruction to the government to do certain things and to achieve certain ends by their actions. The directives are not enforceable in the court and do not create any justiciable rights in favor of the individual. Thus, the directive principles of the state policy do not constitute limitation upon legislative or executive function of the government. Next question is, with reference to the provisions contained in part 4 ही है DPSP of the Constitution of India, which of the following statements is correct? They shall be enforceable by courts, तो ये तो हमने देखा था कि नहीं, justiciable नहीं है. They shall not be enforceable by any court. Yes. The principles laid down in this part are to influence the making of the law by the state. Yes. ये अभी ऊपर के क्वेश्चन में आपने एक्सप्लेनेशन में देखा. तो 2 and 3 are correct. Article 37 of the Indian Constitution says that the provisions contained in part 4 of the Constitution shall not be enforceable by any court. But the principles therein laid down are nevertheless fundamental in the governance of the country, and it shall be the duty of the state to apply these principles in making laws. So the directive principles are non-justiciable. Hence 1 is wrong and while 2 and 3 are correct. Next question is, which article of the Indian Constitution says that DPSP are not enforceable by any court? So it is laid down in Article 37. Article 37 of the Indian Constitution says that the provisions contained in Part 4 of the Constitution shall not be enforceable by any court. Next question. Consider the following statements with respect to directive principles of state policy. They are not enforceable by the courts. Correct. It shall be the duty of the state to apply these principles in making laws. Yes. So both are correct. The Indian Constitution lays down certain directive principles of state policy which, though not justiciable, are fundamental in the governance of the country, and it is the duty of the state to apply these principles in making laws. Next question is, consider the following statements regarding the DPSP. These principles spell out the socio-economic democracy in the country. The provisions contained in these principles are not enforceable by any court. Yes. DPSP are directives to the government to implement them for establishing social and economic democracy in the country. The provisions contained in these principles are not enforceable by any court. These principles have been stated as fundamental in the governance of the country. Next, the concept of welfare state is included in the Constitution of India in Directive Principles of State Policy. From Article 36 to 51 of the Constitution. Which part of the Constitution of India declares the ideal of welfare state? Again same. यहाँ पे भी welfare state की बात थी. जब भी welfare state की बात आएगी तो वहाँ पे क्या आ जाएगा? Directive Principles of State Policy. Next, which part of the Constitution of India describes the model of welfare state? DPSP. The idea of India's welfare state is found in preamble. में वेलफेयर स्टेट की भी बात होती है. फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज, डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी. सो बोथ आर करेक्ट. द आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया एज अ वेलफेयर स्टेट is found in preamble of the constitution as well as DPSP. Preamble gives importance to constituting India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. In the same way, DPSP guide both the center and the states for the establishment of a welfare state. The DPSP may be classified. DPSP में जब भी बोल रही हूँ तो ये शॉर्ट फॉर्म है फॉर डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी. May be classified into which of the following parts for the sake of convenient study? Socialist, liberal, intellectualistic और गांधीयन. तीनों ही तरीके हैं. ये कहीं कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में मेंशन नहीं है, बट इन्हें समझने के लिए हमने ईज करने के लिए इन तीन पार्ट्स में इसको डिवाइड किया है. Constitution does not contain any classification of directive principles. However, on the basis of its content and direction, they can be classified into three broad categories, that is socialistic, Gandhian and liberal, and intellectual. The directive principles of state policy of the Constitution of India is taken from the Constitution of which country? From Ireland, and Ireland had taken it from Spain. बट हमको आंसर याद रखने के लिए क्या याद रखना है? आयरलैंड. स्पेन याद नहीं रखना है. आयरलैंड इज करेक्ट. Framers of the Constitution were influenced by the Irish Constitution to add the provisions of DPSP in the Indian Constitution. The Indian Constitution borrowed the directive principles of the state policy from the Constitution of which of the following countries? Ireland. In Indian Constitution, the idea of DPSP has been taken from. Same question has been repeated so many times. You can see directive principles of state policy are non-justiciable. तो कई बार आपने देख लिया. Next question is, according to the Constitution of India, which of the following are fundamental to the governance of the country? They are directive principles of state policy. Article 37 of the Constitution says that the directive principles are not enforceable in any courts of law in India, but are fundamental in the governance of the country. It will be the duty of the state to ensure that these principles are applied to the legislation of laws. Under the Indian Constitution, concentration of wealth violates right to equality, directive principles, right to freedom, or the concept of welfare. So, concentration of wealth violates the directive principles of state policy. Article 39 of DPSP of Indian Constitution states that certain principles of policy to be followed by the state. The state shall in particular direct its policies towards securing that that the citizens, men and women, equally have the right to an adequate means to livelihood. Adequate means to livelihood, that the ownership and control of the material resources of the community are so distributed as best to subserve the common good, that the operation of the economic system does not result in the concentration of wealth and means of production to the common detriment. जैसे जैसे सैलरी बढ़ती जाती है तो आपने टैक्स स्लैब में देखा होगा कि टैक्स भी इंक्रीज करता जाता है. तो वो क्यों हो रहा है? बिकॉज यहाँ पे लिखा है कि द कॉन्सेंट्रेशन ऑफ वेल्थ एंड मीन्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन टू द कॉमन डेट्रीमेंट, ये ऑपरेशन ऑफ द इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम से ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि कॉन्सेंट्रेशन ऑफ वेल्थ एक के ही पास होती जा रही है. किसी की एनुअल सैलरी 1 लाख रुपीज़ है, किसी की 1 करोड़ है और किसी की 10 करोड़ है. तो बहुत सारा डिफरेंस है ना सबके बीच में. तो जितना टैक्स 1 लाख पे वैसे तो नहीं लगेगा, बट आप समझने के लिए सोचिए कि 1 लाख एनुअल सैलरी पे जो टैक्स लगेगा उससे ज़्यादा जिसका 1 करोड़ एनुअल सैलरी है उस पर टैक्स लगेगा, और उससे भी ज़्यादा टैक्स लगेगा जिसकी 10 करोड़ रुपीज़ है. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट इसी में क्या है, दैट देयर इज़ इक्वल पे फॉर इक्वल वर्क फॉर बोथ मेन एंड वेमेन, that the health and strength of workers, men and women, and the tender age of children are not abused, and that citizens are not forced by economic necessity to enter avocations unsuited to their age or strength. Next is that children are given opportunities and facilities to develop in a healthy manner and in conditions of freedom, dignity, and that childhood and youth are protected against exploitation and against moral and material abandonment. Next question is, equal pay for equal work has been ensured in the Indian Constitution as one of the directive principles of state policy. This has been ensured in the Indian Constitution in Article 39, subclause D, enshrined in Part 4 DPSP. It says that there should be equal pay for equal work for both men and women. It is noteworthy that Article 14, 16 and 39D together with the preamble enabled the Supreme Court in the case of Randhir Singh versus Union of India 1982 to reduce the right to equal pay for equal work as a fundamental right. With respect to Article 39 subclause D of the Indian Constitution, Parliament passed Equal Remuneration Act of 1976. Which one of the following is included in the directive principles of state policy? Protection and respect of conviction for offences, protection of life and personal liberty, protection of interest of minorities, equal pay for equal work for both men and women. ये आपने ऊपर देखा. बाकी ये 3 आपने अगर फंडामेंटल राइट्स का चैप्टर पढ़ा है तो आपको लग रहा होगा कि आपने ये फंडामेंटल राइट्स में पढ़ा है, जैसे कि ये लाइफ एंड पर्सनल लिबर्टी आर्टिकल 21, सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. आपको याद है तो आप नीचे कमेंट कर सकते हैं. फिलहाल इस क्वेश्चन का करेक्ट आंसर डी हो जाएगा. विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज नॉट अ फंडामेंटल राइट? Right against exploitation, equal pay for equal work. This is DPSP, not fundamental right. Equality before law is also fundamental right. Right to freedom of religion is also a fundamental right. Next is Panchayati Raj system in India is laid down under directive principles of state policy. Panchayati Raj system in India is laid down under the directive principles of state policy under Article 40. According to this article, state shall take steps to organize village panchayats and endow them with such powers and authority as may be necessary to enable these to function as units of self-government. Which one of the following articles directs the state government to organize the panchayats? Article 40. to organize village panchayats and endow them with necessary powers and authority to enable them to function as units of self government. ये आर्टिकल 40 में मेंशन्ड है. नेक्स्ट इसी में जो ऑप्शन दिया है आर्टिकल 33, इट स्टेट्स दैट अंडर राइट्स टू कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल रेमेडीज. ये कौन सा आर्टिकल 32 हमने पढ़ा था फंडामेंटल राइट्स को, और आर्टिकल 226 पढ़ा था हाई कोर्ट्स के लिए, 32 होता है सुप्रीम कोर्ट के लिए, टू इशू रिट्स इन केस आपका कोई फंडामेंटल राइट वायलेट हो रहा है. सो यू कैन गो टू हाई कोर्ट और सुप्रीम कोर्ट. एनीवे आर्टिकल 33 states that under rights to constitutional remedies, power of parliament to modify the rights conferred by this part in their application of forces, etc. Article 48 to prohibit the slaughter of cows, calves and other milch and draught cattle and to improve their breeds. Article 50 states separation of judiciary from executive. I hope it is visible now. Next question is, which one of the following articles directs state government to organize village panchayats? Article 40 ऊपर देखा आपने. Under the Constitution of India, organization of village panchayat is a directive principle. Question number 28, यहाँ पर हमें मैच करना है लिस्ट में. फॉर्मेशन ऑफ विलेज पंचायत, ये आपने देखा ऊपर आर्टिकल 40 होता है. यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड का 44 होता है. एग्रीकल्चर एंड एनिमल हस्बेंड्री, सेपरेशन ऑफ जुडिशरी फ्रॉम एग्जीक्यूटिव भी आपने एक क्वेश्चन में यहाँ पर देखा था. कौन से क्वेश्चन में था? इफ़ यू रिमेंबर यू कैन कॉमेंट डाउन बिलो. अभी हम यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन देख लेते हैं. नेक्स्ट इज प्रमोशन ऑफ इंटरनेशनल पीस. तो ये आर्टिकल 50 होता है और इंटरनेशनल 51 होता है. लेट अस सी. एंड दिस इज 48 एनिमल हस्बेंड्री. ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ विलेज पंचायत आर्टिकल 40, यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड 44, एग्रीकल्चर एंड एनिमल हस्बेंड्री इज 48, सेपरेशन ऑफ जुडिशरी फ्रॉम एग्जीक्यूटिव ऊपर देखा था आर्टिकल 50, प्रमोशन ऑफ इंटरनेशनल पीस इज आर्टिकल 51. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज मैच करना है अगेन लिस्ट को. तो आपने ऊपर आर्टिकल 40 देखा ही कि पंचायत्स 40 से रिलेटेड है. 44 यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड है. 48 ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर एंड एनिमल हस्बेंड्री है. एंड 41 इज राइट टू वर्क. तो 1 2 3 4 ये करेक्ट हो जाएगा. नेक्स्ट इज विच वन ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज नॉट करेक्टली मैच्ड. 39A इज इक्वल जस्टिस एंड फ्री लीगल एड. 40 इज ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ विलेज पंचायत, ये तो आपको पता है. 44 भी पता है. 48 सेपरेशन ऑफ जुडिशरी फ्रॉम एग्जीक्यूटिव है या एनिमल हस्बेंड्री वाला है. जुडिशरी फ्रॉम एग्जीक्यूटिव इज आर्टिकल 50. ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर एंड एनिमल हस्बेंड्री इज 48. जुडिशरी फ्रॉम एग्जीक्यूटिव को जो सेपरेट करता है दैट इज आर्टिकल 50. ये ऊपर के क्वेश्चन में आपने यहाँ पे देखा था अभी, सेपरेशन ऑफ जुडिशरी फ्रॉम एग्जीक्यूटिव. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज आइडेंटिफाई द करेक्ट पेयर मेंशनिंग द डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया. कौन सा करेक्ट है आपको ढूंढना है. इक्वल जस्टिस एंड फ्री लीगल एड आर्टिकल 42. ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर एंड एनिमल हस्बेंड्री आर्टिकल 43. ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ विलेज पंचायत आर्टिकल 41. दैट देयर इज इक्वल पे फॉर इक्वल वर्क फॉर बोथ मेन एंड women आर्टिकल 39. This one is correct. And the rest in equal justice and free legal aid article 39A. Organization of agriculture and animal husbandry article 48. Organization of village panchayat article 40. And equal pay for equal work article 39 subclause D. Next question. अगेन यहाँ पे मैच करना है. इक्वल जस्टिस एंड फ्री लीगल एड, प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट, राइट टू वर्क, प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ मॉन्यूमेंट्स. इक्वल जस्टिस एंड फ्री लीगल एड इज आर्टिकल 39A. ऊपर भी देखा आपने. प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट इज आर्टिकल 48A. राइट टू वर्क इज आर्टिकल 41. प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ मॉन्यूमेंट्स इज आर्टिकल 49. विच वन ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज नॉट करेक्टली मैच्ड. सेपरेशन ऑफ जुडिशरी फ्रॉम एग्जीक्यूटिव आर्टिकल 50. Promotion of education and economic interests of SC and ST, Article 46. Promotion of cooperative societies, 43A. Organization of village panchayats, enable them to function as units of self-government, Article 40. This one is not correct. Article 43B of the Constitution of India, promotion of cooperative societies होता है. The state shall endeavour to promote voluntary formation, autonomous functioning, democratic control, and professional management of cooperative societies. Article 43A provides for the participation of workers in the management of industries. So 43A provides for workers in the management of industries. And promotion of cooperative societies is in Article 43 subclause B. Let me remove it so that you can read clearly. So इसमें से गलत कौन सा हो जाएगा? C. Next question is, given below are two statements, one labeled as assertion, other as reason. A. Manrega is providing employment to at least one member of the eligible household for a minimum period of 100 days in a year. Yes. Reason. Right to employment is enumerated in part 3 of the Constitution. No, in part 4 of the Constitution, which is DPSP. Part 3 is fundamental rights. So A is true and R is false. Manrega is an Indian labor law and social security measure that aims to guarantee the right to work. It aims to ensure livelihood security in rural areas by providing at least 100 days of employment in a financial year to every household whose adult member volunteers to do unskilled manual labor. This act aims to follow the DPSP. Manrega scheme has been launched as part of implementing which one of the following articles of the Indian Constitution? Article 43 of Part 4 of the Constitution provides state shall endeavour to secure by suitable legislation or economic organization or in any other way to all workers, agricultural, industrial or otherwise work a living wage condition of work, ensuring a decent standard of life and full enjoyment of leisure and social and cultural opportunities. Manrega is a flagship program to achieve this constitutional goal. Which of the following article was inserted by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act to provide for participation of workers in management? It was Article 43A. यहाँ पे भी आपने देखा था 43A. Participation of workers in the management of industries is 43A. 43B is for cooperative societies. Next question, which article of the Constitution of India has the provision of participation of workers in management of industry? 43A. Which of the following articles of Constitution of India talks about uniform civil code? It is 44. In India, separation of judiciary from executive is enjoyed in Directive Principles of State Policy, article number 50. आपने ऊपर मैच द कॉलम में भी देखा था, मैच वाले में भी ये कई बार क्वेश्चन आया है. According to Article 50 of the Constitution, the state shall take steps to separate the judiciary from the executive in the public services of the state. Hence, the separation of judiciary from executive comes under the Directive Principles of State Policy, Part 4 of the Constitution. Which one of the following articles of the DPSP deals with the promotion of international peace and security? It is Article 51 of the Constitution of India deals with promotion of international peace and security. 41 is right to work, to education and to public assistance in certain cases. 43 is participation of workers in the management of industries. 48 is protection and improvement of environment and safeguarding of forests and wildlife. In the Constitution of India, promotion of international peace and security is included in the Directive Principles of State Policy in Article 51. Article 51 Part 4 of the Constitution provides that the state shall endeavor to promote international peace and security, maintain just and honorable relations between nations, foster respect for international law and treaty obligations in the dealing of organized people with one another, and encourage settlement of international disputes by arbitration. Which part of the Indian Constitution refers to the responsibility of the state towards international peace and security? Directive Principles of State Policy. Which article of the Indian Constitution is related to Indian foreign policy? Article 51. Which of the following was not added to the Directive Principles by the 42nd Amendment of the Constitution? Protection of children and young from exploitation, equal justice and free legal aid. Uniform Civil Code was not added. It was pre-existent in Article 44. Participation of workers in the management of industry. So C is the correct option. Here you can see in the above options except Uniform Civil Code, which is Article 44, all were added by the 42nd Amendment of the Constitution. Article 39 Subclause F, Protection of Children and Young from Exploitation. 39 Subclause A, Equal Justice and Free Legal Aid. 43 Subclause A, Participation of workers in the management of industries. Which principle among the following was added to the DPSP by the 42nd Amendment to the Constitution? Equal pay for equal work for both men and women. Participation of workers in the management of industries was added. Right to work, education and public assistance, securing living wage and human conditions of work to workers. Constitution grants rights against exploitation to children, women and tribals. Dalits is not mentioned in the Constitution. Let's see. Constitution of India grants rights against exploitation to children, women and tribals, but the word Dalit is not mentioned in the Indian Constitution. Which one of the following is not a directive principle of state policy? Prohibition of consumption of intoxicating drinks. It is a DPSP. Cow protection, yes. Environment protection, yes. Free education to children up to the age of 14. It is a fundamental right. Article 21A. Let us see. In the Constitution, prohibition of the consumption of intoxicating drinks and cow protection is described under Article 47 and 48 respectively. Under Article 48A, protection and improvement of the environment is provided. Provision for free and compulsory education for all children until they complete the age of 14 years was mentioned under Article 45 of DPSP, but in 2002, by the 86th Amendment Act, the above provision became the fundamental right under Article 21A. Which one of the following is not a directive principle of state policy? Prohibition of the consumption of intoxicating drinks. It is prohibiting the slaughter of cows and calves. It is protection and improvement of the environment. Yes, free education for children up to the age of 16 years. This is not a DPSP. Which of the following are included in the DPSP? Prohibition of trafficking in human beings and forced labor. ये आपने देखा कि ये फंडामेंटल राइट में आता है 23 में या 24 में, कमेंट करके बता सकते हैं आप. Prohibition of consumption except for medicinal purposes of intoxicating drinks and of other drugs which are injurious to health. Yes, this is a DPSP. Prohibition on consumption except for medicinal purposes of intoxicating drinks and of other drugs which are injurious to health is mentioned under Article 47 of the Directive Principles of State Policy, whereas prohibition of trafficking in human beings and forced labor is mentioned under Article 23 Subclause 1 of the Fundamental Rights. लीजिए, आपसे क्वेश्चन मैंने जो पूछा था आपको आंसर यही मिल गया. It is 23. So statement 2 is only correct. चलिए नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन देख लेते हैं. Consider the following provisions under the Directive Principles of State Policy as enshrined in the Constitution of India. Securing uniform civil code for citizens of India. Organizing village panchayats. Promoting cottage industries in rural areas. Securing for all workers reasonable leisure and culture opportunities. नहीं, सबके लिए लेजर एंड कल्चर अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ ये तो नहीं है डीपीएसपी में. तो अगर फोर्थ नहीं है तो ये कट गया, ये कट गया, ये कट गया. आंसर इज 2 and 3. लेट अस सी. Articles 40, 47, 48 are based on Gandhian principles. These articles are as follows. Organization of village panchayats to raise the level of nutrition and standard of living and to improve public health. This is mentioned in Article 47. Article 48 states that prevention of cow slaughter, organization of agriculture and animal husbandry. Next question is, in which of the following the provisions for the protection and improvement of environment and safeguarding of forests and wildlife are found in the Constitution of India? In Directive Principles of State Policy and in only in fundamental duties, or in both? Article 48A of the Part 4 DPSP of the Indian Constitution has provisions for the protection and improvement of the environment and the safeguarding of forests and wildlife. फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज़ में क्या मेंशन्ड है आपको अगर पता है तो ठीक है, नहीं तो इसके बाद नेक्स्ट चैप्टर में वही आप देखेंगे. सिमिलरली अकॉर्डिंग टू आर्टिकल 51A सब क्लॉज G, इट इज़ द ड्यूटी ऑफ एवरी सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया टू प्रोटेक्ट एंड इम्प्रूव द नेचुरल एनवायरनमेंट. विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग, सो बोथ आर करेक्ट ये वाला क्वेश्चन में. सॉरी फॉर द इंटरप्शन. 51 क्वेश्चन नंबर का करेक्ट आंसर वुड बी सी, दैट बोथ इन DPSP एंड फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज दोनों जगह क्या मेंशन्ड है, प्रोविजंस फॉर द प्रोटेक्शन एंड इम्प्रूवमेंट ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट एंड सेफ गार्डिंग ऑफ फॉरेस्ट एंड वाइल्ड लाइफ. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज, विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग प्रोविजंस इज अ पार्ट ऑफ बोथ DPSP एंड फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज? तो ये ऊपर आपने देखा दैट प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट. अंडर पार्ट 4 DPSP अकॉर्डिंग टू 48A article of Indian Constitution, state shall endeavor to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. And under part 4A which encompasses fundamental duties, according to article 51AG of the Indian Constitution, it is the fundamental duty of every citizen of India to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. Hence option B is the correct. Which one of the following is a directive principle of state policy? The state shall endeavor to protect and improve the environment. Yes, it is. State shall not deny equality to any person before the law. This is a fundamental right. State shall not discriminate against any person on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. This is also a fundamental right. Untouchability is article number 17. This is also a fundamental right. So A is the correct option. The Constitution is silent in directive principles of state policy about adult education. Yes, it is silent about it. Living wages for workers, ये mentioned है. Free legal aid to poor, yes. Primary education to children till they complete the age of 6 years. पहले आर्टिकल 45 में था, अब आर्टिकल 21A में है. प्राइमरी एजुकेशन अप टू द एज ऑफ 6 years है. कंपल्सरी 6 to 14 years वाला 21A में है. So this is also mentioned. So the provision for adult education is not mentioned in the directive principles of state policy in part 4. Living wages for workers is mentioned in 43. Free legal aid to poor is mentioned in 39A, and provision for early childhood care and education to children below the age of 6 years is mentioned in article 45 of the DPSP. Which of the following directive principles of state policy was added to the Constitution at a later date? Organization of village panchayats, prohibition of cow slaughter, free legal aid was added at a later date. Uniform Civil Code. Article 39A of the Constitution provides for free legal aid to the poor and weaker section of the society and ensure justice for all. Equal justice and free legal aid, that is Article 39A, was inserted by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. With reference to National Legal Services Authority, क्या यही ही नेशनल लीगल सर्विसेज अथॉरिटी ही नालसा एक्ट थी? आपको पता है तो कमेंट करिए. कंसिडर द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट्स. इट्स ऑब्जेक्टिव इज टू एंश्योर फ्री एंड कॉम्पिटेंट लीगल सर्विसेज टू द वीकर सेक्शन ऑफ द सोसाइटी ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटी. It issues guidelines to the state legal services authorities to implement the legal programs and schemes throughout the country. The National Legal Services Authority, NALSA. अरे मैं जो भी क्वेश्चन पूछ रही हूँ आपसे नीचे आपको आंसर मिल जा रहा है. Anyway, let us move forward. NALSA has been constituted under the Legal Services Authority Act 1987 to provide free legal services to the weaker sections of the society and to organize lok adalats for the amicable settlement of disputes. The objective of the National Legal Services Authority is to provide free and competent legal services to the weaker sections of the society on the basis of equal opportunity. It also gives instructions to state legal services authorities and provides them with financial grants. The State Legal Services Authority is headed by the Chief Justice of the respective High Court, who is the patron in chief of the State Legal Services Authority. So both are correct. In India, legal services authorities provide free legal services to which of the following type of citizens? Person with annual income of less than 1 lakh rupees, transgender with annual income of less than 2 lakh rupees, member of OBC with an annual income of less than 3 lakh rupees, all senior citizens. The sections of the society as enlisted under Section 12 of the Legal Services Authorities Act are entitled to free legal service. They are member of SC or ST, a victim of trafficking in human beings or begar, as referred to Article 23 of the Constitution, a woman or a child. An industrial worker, a person in receipt of annual income less than amount mentioned in the following schedule, or any other higher amount as may be prescribed by the state government. Income ceiling limit prescribed for availing free legal services in different states has been stated as below. Andhra Pradesh 3, Arunachal 1, Gujarat 1, Karnataka 1, Madhya Pradesh 1, Delhi 1, senior citizen 2 lakh, transgender 2 lakh. Thus statement 1 is correct while 3 is wrong, because free legal aid service to SC/ST community but not to OBCs. Provision for free legal services to members of transgender community up to 2 lakh in Delhi, and statement 2 is correct. Senior citizens eligibility for free legal aid depends on the rules framed by the respective state government in this regard. In Delhi, for example, senior citizens are eligible for free legal aid subject to a prescribed ceiling of annual income. Therefore, not all senior citizens are eligible for free legal aid. Hence, 4 is wrong. So, correct option is option A. Only 1 and 2. Person with annual income less than 1 lakh, transgender with an annual income less than 2 lakhs. Which of the following is not included in DPSP? Prohibition of liquor, right to work, equal wage for equal work, right to information act अलग है. RTI emerges as a legal right under the Right to Information Act 2005. However, Article 39D deals with equal pay for equal work for both men and women. 39A deals with adequate means of livelihood. 47 states that it will be the duty of the state to raise the level of nutrition and the standard of living and to improve public health. Which one of the following is a DPSP? Uniform Civil Code, it is freedom of press, fundamental rights, right to freedom of speech and expression, freedom of religion, this is also fundamental right, equality before law, this is also fundamental right. So A is the correct option. Uniform Civil Code is DPSP. Identify the items included in the DPSP. Prohibition of consumption of liquor, yes. Prohibition of employment of children in factories or mines, this is in fundamental rights. Prohibition of beggar or forced labor, this is also fundamental right. Exploitation वाले हैं ये दोनों. Prohibition of untouchability, this is also Article 17, which is in fundamental right. So only 1 is DPSP. Article 47 of the DPSP underscores that it is the duty of the state to raise the level of nutrition and the standard of living and to improve public health. State shall endeavour to bring about prohibition on the consumption, except for medicinal purposes, of intoxicating drinks and of drugs which are injurious to health, whereas prohibition of employment of children in factories or mines, prohibition of beggar or forced labour, and prohibition of untouchability are mentioned under Article 24, 23, 17 respectively of fundamental rights. Which one of the following is not a directive principle of state policy? Equal pay for equal work for men and women, it is equal right to an adequate means of livelihood, yes. Abolition of untouchability is not a DPSP, it is a fundamental right. Just and humane conditions of work, this is also DPSP. Directive principle of state policy is a check which is paid on bank's convenience. Who said it? This was said by Mr. K.T. Shah. Next question is, with reference to the Constitution of India, consider the following: fundamental rights, duties, DPSP. Which of the above provisions of the Constitution of India fulfilled National Social Assistance Program launched by the Government of India? It was fulfilled by DPSP. National Social Assistance Program was launched on 15th August 1995 by the government to fulfill the provisions of DPSP regarding the right to work, to education, to public assistance in certain cases. National Old Age Pension Scheme, National Family Benefit Scheme and National Maternity Benefit Scheme were included in the National Social Assistance Program from the beginning, but on 1st April 2001, NMBS was made a part of the Population Control Scheme. Which of the following are listed among the DPSP Part 4 in the Constitution of India? Equal pay for equal work. Yes. Uniform Civil Code. Yes. Small family norm. Education through mother tongue at primary level. So 1 and 2. Equal pay for equal work for both men and women. Article 39 subclause D. And Uniform Civil Code Article 44 are listed among the DPSP in Part 4 of the Constitution of India. Article 350A, which directs every state and every local authority within the state to provide adequate facilities for instruction in the mother tongue at the primary stage of education to children belonging to linguistic minority groups. It is not listed in DPSP given in Part 4 of the Constitution. So यहाँ पे आपका ये DPSP के जितने भी सवाल आए थे अलग अलग स्टेट PCS या IAS में, वो मैंने यहाँ पर डिस्कस किए हैं. आपको ये वीडियो कैसा लगा आप कमेंट्स में बता सकते हैं. अगर आपको स्पीड ज़्यादा लग रही है तो आप इसको स्लो करके वीडियो को देख सकते हैं और कम लग रही है तो फास्ट करके देख सकते हैं. ये आपको पॉलिटी की सीरीज़ कैसी लग रही है? यहाँ पे सिर्फ क्वेश्चंस ही डिस्कस कर रही हूँ मैं, ये अज्यूम करके कि आपने बेसिक लिटरेचर इसका पढ़ा होगा. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर वॉचिंग दिस वीडियो. नेक्स्ट वीडियो में हम फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज़ से कंटिन्यू करेंगे.